Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, guys, good afternoon. We are from Group C. We will presentation the last material about drawing conclusion and predicting outcomes. But before we start presentation, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Iin Nuryani, and
My name is Septi Kurniawati.
And my name is Ghina Raudhatul Jannah.
okay, let's start the presentation. The first presenter is Septi Kurniawati. Time is yours. Okay, Septi.
Next. Okay. For the first is drawing conclusion. Drawing a conclusion is a statement a reader makes about a character or event from a story. To make an inference, the reader uses information from the story, such as example, fact, reason, and description. Personal experience or knowledge, which are memories you bring to the story. In order to effectively draw conclusion, reader needs to. So the first is consider what they already know from their own experience and gather all of the information that the author has given them, like a character, personalities, feelings, and motivation, the time period and place, conflicts, and other. For the example is Harry is worried because he broke the table and knows he will get in trouble. I once got in trouble for breaking something in the house, even though it was an accident. When we read that Harry broke the table, then we relate it to our experience that we have also broken something at home, so we can draw conclusion that Harry will get in trouble for breaking the table. Okay, next. Why is it important to know how draw conclusion? Drawing conclusion helps the reader to understand the total picture of the story. For example, many times an author will describe story elements rather than directly telling you where, when, who, and so forth. We need to draw conclusion in order to understand the important parts of the story. Okay, the next presenter is Gina.
Okay, for steps to draw a conclusion, first you think about what the other word. So, in drawing a conclusion, we must determine our conclusion according to what the other word. If we don't do that, then we will make a mistake in drawing a conclusion. So, and then think about your own experience or your prior knowledge. So, in drawing conclusions, we also need to use experience and our prior knowledge to determine the right conclusion because both of them will really help us when we are going to draw a conclusion. Almost 100% of what we experience in our lives is similar to the events written by the author. So, we can guess on the basis of our knowledge and then now make a conclusion using what the other what your about your own experience and your prior knowledge. So we have two different pictures here. Each picture has its own clue. In the first picture we can see that there are several things here. There are cakes, there are the pounds, and there are also gifts. If we face a clue like this, the first thing we do is think about what the author was written, then use our knowledge and experience. And if we look at these three objects at a moment, then we will conclude that there is a birthday party going on, isn't it? So, and the second picture also has several clues. There is a classroom, teacher blackboard, and the last one is a student. So we can draw the conclusion again that teaching and learning activities are happening or students are having their classes.
Okay, the next material is about predicting outcomes. So, predicting outcome is the ability to predict what will happen next based on the things, clues given in the picture or story or paragraph, and what you already know. So, when we tell what will happen next, we predict outcomes or the future result. We base our prediction on given clues. When we guess about what will happen next based on the clues, we are making prediction. It is called predicting outcomes. When we make a prediction, we using information from the story and what we already know, and the result is predicting outcomes or good guess. And what is the importance of predicting outcomes? Predicting outcomes encourage children to actively think ahead and ask questions. Because in predicting outcomes, children will be trying to be able to guess what will happen next in the story, thus training children to actively think and ask questions. And when it is important to predict outcomes, the first is when reading. When reading conclusively or not, we often guess the storyline that will happen next. But this usually happens when we read short storybooks, fairy tales, and etc. And the second, when you make a decision. When you make decision, we make decision. For example, the story and interesting or not, we can find then predicting outcomes also help to make decisions. And the third is when you are watching a movie. For example, there is a scene where a man rides a motorcycle at high speed. Then in front of the man there is a pedestrian who suddenly crosses over. We can guess what will happen next is that the pedestrian will be hit by the man's motorcycle. And the example predicting outcomes, she is texting while walking. So can you guess the answer? And the answer is A. Why? Look back at the picture. There's a picture of a woman who focuses on her bones. She walks. She doesn't know in front of her there is a hole. From the picture, we can guess what will happen next to the woman. That is, she will fall. So the answer is A. And the conclusion the conclusion is a decision, opinion, or judgment reached after thoughtful consideration of material you have read. Elder 2004 p. 187. It must be based on information you have read, but must go beyond what the author states. A conclusion typically comes after all of the information has been considered. You can draw conclusion logical summaries of characteristics based on the subject, current, and past behavior. Predicting outcome is the ability to predict what will happen next based on two things: clues given in the picture or story or paragraph, and what you already know. Maybe enough. There is any question? Okay. The first questioner is Rafika.
Okay, thank you, Iin and others for the time. So let me introduce myself. My name is Safika Nazat Rumah, and I want to give you a question. what is the advantages and disadvantages of these strategies. Thank you.
Okay, the next is Tiara.
Okay, thank you for the time. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Tiar Desiana. I want to ask you a question. Can you tell me the difference between making inference and drawing conclusion? Thank you.
Okay, Lydia.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the time. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Lydia. I'd like to ask you a question. Um, is there any important time for predicting outcomes beside when you reading or when you making a decision and when you watching movies? Thank you.
Can I answer Rapika questions?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but uh, I want to share about advantages from this material about drawing conclusion that it is like on PowerPoint. Like, why is it important to know how to draw conclusions? So, yes, of course, this is so advantages from us because drawing conclusions can help we the reader to more understand the total picture of the story. But I think that for disadvantages, I think there is a not because this is so helpful for our activity reading activity, and from important advantages from predicting outcomes that like according to PowerPoint again, that so predicting outcomes that encourage children to actively think ahead and ask questions. So the children uh, can actively think on their head for from ask question, and from disadvantage, I think that is not because this is so helpful though to our life, to our reading activity. Rapika, did you get it? Or
Yeah.
you had to?
Thank you, Gina. Okay, so enough.
Thank you.
Okay, let me answer the question from Tiara. What is a difference making inference and drawing conclusion? So the differences between making inference and drawing conclusion is from the steps. They are so different. When we do drawing conclusion, we use our prior knowledge and we using clues from the story. And while making inference, We are only based on the rider's prior knowledge. Okay, Tiara, are you get it?
Yes, thank you, Iin.
Okay. And for Lydia, can you uh, repeat the question?
Okay. Is there any other important time for predicting outcomes other than when you're reading or when you're making a decision or when you watching movies? It's like any other example time other than that. It's like that.
Okay, I want to um, answer Lydia questions. There, when we can, we can, when read newspaper. So there's a news, right? Like um, so we can what like um, make a drawing conclusion from the news before we know the total picture from the news. So like yeah, like we read newspaper and maybe from Iin Septi, any others argument. Lydia, you get it or not?
Oh yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, any other question?
Okay, any other questions or not?
Okay, if no other question, we will close this presentation. So thank you guys for joining this meeting. Thank you for your participate. Um, Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi
Thank
wabarakatuh.
you.
Waalaikumsalam.